Mr. Greg Shipp, he is a CTE Director for Conroe ISD. He's a role model in the CTE community. He was also voted by the Association of Career and Technical Education as the Administrator of the Year.
It was just it was a slow year.
Yeah. So he's
all right. Lizette did such an excellent job of setting the table for what we're going to talk about today. And what I want to do today, right now my brain's on fire a little bit because I'm going to try to tie together all of these masterful presentations that you guys have heard about data. And actually, Jeff's going to end the day with us talking about evaluation. Here's the good news. Someone said lunch. About 90% of my presentation is done because you've already heard it. So I'm going to bird walk a little bit. I'm going to show you guys a resource very quickly. Maybe. One of the things I want to ask you is how many of you use the Summary of Finance page on the TEA website? All right, great. I want to show you that, and I want to show you why it's really important. If you don't know where that is, you can go to the A to Z index and just go to S. We are talking about data, and so there are many different data sources. Let's go to Summary of Finance report. We're going to use my district as an example. Now, I've been a CTE teacher, a counselor. I was a principal at a charter school. I was also the vice president of a charter school, which essentially put me into the role of superintendent. I'm going to share that with you for a reason. I spent 16 years as part of the TEA Technical Assistance and Training branch team as a region center person and enjoyed it immensely. And I'm in about my 6th or 7th year as an administrator. One of the things that I like to do when I go out and visit districts is look at their finances. Look, this is public information. Anyone can look it up. Folks, this is your money. So let's go to the Summary of Finances page. We're going to use my district as an example. We're going to look at current school year. We're going to put in Conroe ISD. It's this simple. And we're going to submit it. I want to scroll down to the most current version, and there you can look at your FTEs. There's a lot of information here, but here's what I want to show you. Right here, this is my career in technical education allotment. What does that say? How much money is there? 16 million. So spend 58%. By rule, 58% of the funds that are generated in your courses that are weighted funding must go directly back to the programs that generate it. Simple. There's no flexibility, there's no wiggle room. So when I came to Conroe ISD, one of the first things I did is I did a 5-year budget analysis. And I went all the way back to 5 years before I came to the district, and I looked at how much we generated. And I did that for a reason. One, I wanted to see if the budget accurately reflected the growth in my programs, and I can show you what that looks like. So let's go back very quickly. We'll go back to my first year. Maybe. Oh. All right, so what it's going to show you is that I've had progressive growth each year. And really that's what I wanted to show you. But I was able to go in and look at the percentage of funds that should have come to my program all the way back to the 90-10 split, for those of you who've been around for a while. Okay? Here's what I found. There was some money I couldn't account for. About $2 million. So I called upstairs to the finance department, and I said, hey, can you give me a printout of my 199 program intent 22 budget? 199 state funds, program intent 22. These are your state CTE funds. And here's what I found. This is why data is so important. I came to the district in January of 2010. I was paying for ROTC teachers, driver ed teachers, journalism teachers. I still have a journalism teacher in my district who's furious with me. She's still waiting on her new computer lab. Okay? So I was able to take that out. The other thing I want to tell you is that working with CFOs can be very interesting. When I was a charter school principal in the pseudo-superintendent's role, I went to some of the superintendent's meetings. And here's what I found out. They meet with financial people, and I'm just going to call it out, ladies and gentlemen, who tell them how to wire around the system. This is how you can... This may be a secret to you. For me, I was shocked. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Really? So what I'm telling you is, this is your information about your funding. Check to see that the 58% that by rule, this is not Greg Shipp's rule. This is TEA rule. This is actually Texas Education Code, and I believe it's also Administrative Code. Am I saying that correctly? I know it's Texas Education Code. So when we talk about data, it's more than just evaluating your programs. It's checking. Now, my job in this district is to keep us in compliance. It is absolutely to keep us in compliance. So I sat down right with my administration and I said, we have a problem. There's a state of incongruence between what you're allocating to my program and what by law must come to my program. I did not win any popularity contests. Okay? But the bottom line is, who signs for that compliance report that Lizette wants us to avoid? It's your superintendent. Your superintendent's going to come and say, why didn't you let me know about that? So, this is powerful information. If you're not using Summary of Finance page, I encourage you to do that. There's a lot of great information there. All right, so my presentation, when I said it's about 90% done, I wasn't kidding. So we were going to talk about the PER. We're not going to talk about the PER. Here's what I want to tell you about the PER. When you complete the PER, you are essentially doing a full compliance review. That's important, be honest. That's an intense document. I'm going to give you an example. One of the things you're assuring the agency is that your programs are accessible. That includes accessibility for students who are mobility impaired. That includes parking lots, signage. Okay? Have you walked your campuses? Have you walked your district? It's important to take a look at that. If you have areas of non-accessibility, we need to develop a plan for accessibility. In addition, that gives you some impetus to go to your planning and construction team and your leadership team and say, we need to do some construction or renovation. Lizette really did an excellent job of talking about the power of data. Here's what I want to tell you. We're going to talk about, I want to talk about STAR for a minute. In your accountability group, where's Lizette? Okay, so when we look at the PBMAS data, which students are used to generate that PBMAS report? Do you know? It's your Code 2 students, your coherent sequence takers. So the first day when I was talking about, I put my eyes on every, now listen, let me say this again. There's 60,000 students in my district. I have 6 high schools, I'm building the 7th high school. I'm a department of 1. This is a doable thing. Data is powerful, this is important, take the time to do it. Before you submit those codes, the fall snapshot, take a look. If the Code 2 is not there, I will not sign for it. If it's not there, if they aren't truly in a coherent sequence and I can't see the sequence, where was the gentleman that was here yesterday? He was talking about you need to have 3 things. You need to have the 4-year plan, the academic record, and what they're currently enrolled in. Without that, can you honestly say that that child is a 2? No. Without those 3 things, and I will not falsely code a student a 2. It has to be there, and I can justify it to anybody who comes and visits my district. Now, let's talk about state accountability. Index 4. What is Index 4 based on? Partly how many students you have coded as 2s. Principals are out there going, hey, Shipp, I want to get my index score up here in Index 4. You've got to get me some more 2s. And I'm like, no. And I talked to my superintendent about this, and my associate superintendent, and my assistant superintendent, and campus administrators. I will not increase your 2s for Index 4 because your accountability is tied to your 2s. So be aware, heads up. Principals are going to be looking at that Index 4 and they're going to be going, hey, you can get Index 4 up by coding more 2s. I would think about that long and hard. As we were back here, I got an email from our associate superintendent. He just released some data. My graduation rate in CTE and Conroe ISD is 97.7%. Brand new data. I'm going to tell you something. If your graduation rate is lower in CTE than the district average, something is wrong. Okay? And it can be a philosophy of education. I'm just going to call this out. I have 30 minutes. I know I'm talking fast. I promise. So, one of the things I ask districts when I go in to visit with them is, why does CTE exist? You want to see some uncomfortable people squirming in their chairs? Watch them try to think about what's really in their heart when they think of career and technical education. It's the same thing like the college-bound versus non-college-bound conversation. You will never hear me say, ever, that CTE is for non-college-bound students. You will never hear me say that, because the moment we talk about college-bound versus non-college-bound, we set a lower expectation for that student. Is this data powerful? 97.7% graduation rate. What this tells my district, if we get them, we keep them, we graduate them. We have very high standards for career and technical education in my district. However, I fight the same battle that each of you fight, and that is, how do people view my program? So data is powerful for a lot of reasons. It's powerful for evaluation, but it's also your friend when you're out working with administrators or your community. The dropout rate, my dropout rate went up a little bit. It's 1.2%. We had been around 0.7%. So I have to take a look at that. I have to see why that's occurring. My attendance rate. I want to look at my non-traditional participation rate. Lizette was talking about, I'm going to tell you something, Lizette. The state of Texas was held accountable by the federal government the same way that districts are held accountable by TPA, UDAC, compliance in 2 areas in CTE with the feds. CTE left and CTE sped. So when you're talking about looking at your data, that's so critically important. Our best friends are our friends in the ESL bilingual program and our friends in special ed. We're all one big happy family. We should be one big team. We should all be working together. Lizette said something very important, and that is our accountability group is listed on the PBMAS report, right? It tells us exactly how many students are in that accountability set. When do you identify your accountability set? When should you know who your accountability students are? Right after your fall snapshot. You go in, you generate a list of your CTE left and your CTE sped kids, if that's your area of concern. That's the list that you send out to your campus administrators and say, here is your targeted group. Here's who you're going to be held accountable for. I want to see your interventions. I want to know how you're monitoring the success of students. When I came to Conroe ISD, we had the best looking plan I had ever seen. It was wonderful, Jeff. Gary Yancey must have written it. It was perfect. It was absolutely beautiful. No one was monitoring it. No one. I got there January of 2010. When is testing? So I got there roughly about 2 months before testing, and I'm like, okay, can I see some benchmark data on my kids, or, you know, where are we? And they're like, what? So the plan is not the thing. It's the monitoring, it's the monitoring, it's the monitoring. When you look at your accountability set after you identify those kids at snapshot, when we look at benchmarking, or when we look at the test results, the state accountability results, we should identify all the way down to the individual students. We should know these students by name, and we should know the SC and objective that they're struggling with. This is the power of data. If you want to bring your district out of a stage of accountability, ladies and gentlemen, you can't do it based on what the campus struggled with. You have to do it on what the student is struggling with. Here's what we found out. We found out a couple of things. One, I looked at attendance, and guess what? We had kids missing 50, 60, 70 days a year. If they're not in school, they're not going to pass. Okay, that's powerful. The other thing we found out with our CTE Limited English Proficient, our ELLs, many of them had passed and were ready to be exited from the program, weren't exited from the program at the 8th grade level, and they still counted in my accountability set. So the first thing is the accuracy of your data and the accuracy of your procedures has a big impact. So get to know what's the assessment we use with ELLs? The TELPAS. Thank you, TELPAS. There are 4 tests. 4 levels. So check to see where those children are in TELPAS testing. Work with your ESL bilingual coordinator. I learned a lot about TELPAS, Dale, actually, which was very helpful for me. So look at your data beyond just your students. Here's the other thing we found out. We looked at our feeder campuses. We looked at our junior high school. What's going on intervention-wise with those students down there? So know what your junior high feeder campuses are doing with targeted interventions for the students that you will be serving. It's so critically important. CTE can involve achievement by itself. It's not a CTE issue. We're all one big team. And Lizette, you said, talking about your PLCs. I went through PLC training. How many of you have professional learning communities? How many of you have been through PLC training? What did they tell you about career and technical education and PLC training? I'm just curious. Here's what they told me. Okay, CTE, I was excited, I was torqued, I was amped. Hey, we're going to get this data done. Teachers, we're going to let them rock with it. How does CTE get in there? Oh, you're going to watch the kids while your academic team's working down. I said, you got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. So I had fought tooth and nail to get CTE involved in those PLCs, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm proud to tell you that we are modeling that in the curriculum and instruction department at the district level right now. It was not easy because the PLC people go, CTE, yeah, you're going to watch the kids while your academic team's working down. I was like, oh, no, we're not either. We are academic education. So, the other thing I want to talk to you about is accessibility of your program. Looking at data, this is so critically important. When you look at the enrollment in your programs, look at the diversity in your programs, we want to look like the rest of the district in terms of diversity. We don't want to be underrepresented. We don't want to be overrepresented in terms of the diversity in our district. If we're overrepresented, the first question I've got is why? Okay, why? Is it based on student interest? That's the first thing I want to see. Show me the data. Show me the data that says this child is interested in the program. Okay, because when I came to Conroe ISD, we were overrepresented with male Hispanic students in collision and repair. And I went to the counselors and said, okay, great, show me some interest inventory information here. Oh no, these kids need jobs. Okay, and that's that old school mantra. So I said, no. So we did a lot of work on diversity, and then we also implemented a guidance system so that I could track who was actually interested. The other thing that I found is that we were overrepresented with students with disabilities. And I said, okay, our committee, can you show me some assessment information that shows me? I'll give you a great example. I was here in Austin, I got a call. Our committee met at one of my campuses, placed a student, senior, in advanced automotive technology. Has never been in the pathway. Advanced automotive technology. So we don't know the cycles of an engine, intake, compression, exhaust ignition. We work with horrifically dangerous equipment in career and technical education. Okay, the new vehicles, the fuel cell vehicles. Have you opened those up and looked at the battery? Have you seen that battery in that thing? It's huge. What's on it? A big skull and crossbones. So I've been working with my special ed folks we actually sat down and we created information sheets about career and technical education that describes every single thing about it. Now I'm going to say this, I'm a CTE special ed teacher. For those of you who've been around for a while, I have CDAE and DEH certification, which has been gone for many years. I understand the process. We do a masterful job of serving students with disabilities. However, our friends in special education are not curriculum specialists. Let me say that in their defense. They are not curriculum specialists. They do not know everything about career and technical education. I think it was that Bill Chapman talking about that this morning. He's in creating this. So we worked for a year creating a very detailed description of both the academic and technical skills that are designed, and those are designed to be used in the arts. So we're working on that. We're working on helping our friends understand what career and technical education is today. Now, the impact of placing that student in the advanced automotive technology program is that I've got a child who's been in a four-year pathway. I have limited enrollment. So that child just lost out on their endorsement and their program study. We do an excellent job of serving students with disabilities, but we can use data to help form our information to keep our program strong and to work with our friends in special education. Contact hours, you should be looking at that constantly and chronically. Go back and look at your summary of finance pages. Go back. Are you seeing progressive growth each year? If not, if you have got enrollment that's increasing, but your funding from the state is not increasing, you have a reporting issue. And also, take a look and see if all of a sudden your money doubled. We talked about that yesterday. Ouch. Find out what's going on there, because we may have over-reported and we don't want to give money back. Our coherent sequence students, absolutely critical for everything right now. That's why we look at those 4-year plans. That's why we review. That's why we get our friends, the counselors, breakfast on our big teams party day, we get them breakfast, we bring them in lunch. And let me tell you how I do that. I bring in every counselor in the district, and you bet I buy breakfast. Not only do I bring in every counselor, I bring the PEAMS department. And we get a WOW card, we get a wireless card. So I have got every counselor in the district, and every person who understands CTE coding, that's my cadre, with me. We're working with all of those counselors, and they don't bring in just the 4-year plan, they bring in the whole folder so that we can have all of those data sources. And we verify, we create a sheet, it goes straight to PEAMS right then, and they enter it. And we're done. And we're done. It's a pretty rock solid system. All right, look at your codes 1 and 2, your 4-year plans, your contact hour review. Should be looking at that fall or summer. Now, look at your 5 years funding. Do an analysis of your funding. Have you seen an increase in enrollment? Is there a corresponding funding increase? Okay, and this is just what we were talking about. We were talking about data validation yesterday. So it's more than just doing your snapshot submission. You can actually change those codes all the way to January. Am I thinking right? January. So when I came to Conroe, here's what was happening. I had one high school campus that was on a way modified schedule. They were actually running 4 semesters a year, 2 semesters a semester. In each one, so in the fall there were 2 semesters. In the spring there were 2 semesters, 4 semesters in a year. They were changing the code each semester. There was a 42% state of incongruence between fall snapshot and test documents. Here's why you want to check that. If you are in a stage of intervention for student validations, I actually had to go in full every 4-year plan and go in and check the code by hand. You don't want to do it. It's easier to do it up front. So when you get those test documents, you're going to print out your snapshot kids. You're going to print out your 2s. As soon as it's available, you print out your 2s, drop it in whatever you want to drop it in, Google Docs, Dropbox. I print it out and keep it because I'm old school in a notebook so I can pull it down. I take my little notebook, I go to our assessment center where all of those tests are coming in, and before they finish packaging them up, I go in and I compare hand by hand by hand. We have been 100% since 2011, and I got to tell you, all it takes is time. And once that process gets going, so data can be your friend on keeping out of a stage of intervention. Look for trends in the data. Look at your limited English proficient students. You're going to know by fall snapshot who your CTE LEP students are. Why wait? Start your interventions right then. Get that list out to the district. Do staff development with them. Your special ed students. And I will tell you, the great thing about this is I asked to see for our CTE SPED kids, I said, I want to review the documents. I want to see who the CTE rep was in the R. Now, our friends in CTE are required by commissioner's rules to be in the R. Special ed law doesn't require it. A state can't require less than federal law, but they can require more. The commissioner's rules are very clear about us being present. And you know what? The worst reason to do something is to be in compliance. The best reason to do it is because it's good for students. Fair statement? So we need a CTE rep there to speak about all the things that go on in CTE. If we have our program information, then we can say to the person thinking about taking a 5th-year senior and putting them in advanced automotive technology, okay, you understand that at this point they're self-directed with teacher as facilitator. We're treating that lab just like we would at a dealership. Where they're the tech, they go out and diagnose the vehicle when it comes in, they write the bill of sale, they do everything. Because in their defense, they don't always understand it. And so, look at our dropout rate. If our dropout rate is higher than the district's dropout rate, something's wrong. And again, to me, if I'm looking at that, it almost goes back to philosophy of education. Back when I was younger and a lot braver, I'd ask some really, and not that I'm not brave now, I'm actually just a little crazier. I'll say crazy things because I can, because I can retire. But I used to go in and I'd work with these big districts. And man, I thought I was running something. And I would go in and I'd have the whole administrative team there. Like, Greg Shipp's here, he's going to ask these hard questions. And I'd go, why does CTE exist in your district? Man, Ask that of an administrative team sometime and watch the room go silent. Watch them struggle with what really is in their heart in their philosophy of education. Because they don't want to say, well, that's for those non-college bound kids, but I got to tell you. Or if you're really brave, ask them this. Because I'll hear that and I'll go, oh, okay, non-college bound kid. Help me understand. Define non-college bound for me. Describe a non-college bound student for me. And watch them struggle what's really in their heart. Watch them struggle to verbalize what's really in their heart when they're saying that, because it is the worst kind of low expectations. The worst kind of low expectations. Now, here's the secret. Those non-college bound kids are going to college. I teach at a community college. 10 years later, they're in my class. Here's the deal. The first year, they stay in remedial courses for which they get no credit. Chapman was talking about the Microsoft suite. Oh my God, I never thought I was going to have to teach students how to open up Word, how to do a PowerPoint. Listen, kids today are tech savvy, but they are not tech skilled. There's a huge difference. If I want to know about my iPhone, I talk to my 15-year-old daughter, okay? She needs my help with Google Docs. I'm still feeling pretty good. So, there is information we can use to help people understand. When I talk about career and technical education to my administration, to my community, to any audience, what I talk about is giving children the best of both worlds. A post-secondary prep education enhanced by an occupationally specific and marketable skill. That should be our message. Because I got to tell you what, it's hard to have a lower expectation when you put it out there that way. So look for all of these things. The non-traditional course participation, we do use that. We think it's very important. We watch it very, very carefully. What we're looking for are barriers, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. So we've already talked about, when you look at your data, and you're looking at student achievement, and Zach touched on this, I want to come back to it. The low-hanging fruit is a trend by teacher. If you've got a weak teacher on your campus, your administration already knows it. So people always go, well, you need to look at trend by teacher. I guarantee you most of you are not going to find a trend by teacher. There's not an academic teacher. There may be, but I guarantee you that's low-hanging fruit. Okay, you need to look at the students who fail, but first you should identify them in fall. You should already know who your target group is. DSE your objective by student, and look at the trend by teacher. And then go beyond just your achievement. Look at where these kids are. What we found with our special ed kids, in my group, not only were they not in school, they were all in ISS or OSS. How many days can they be out? 10. Isn't it 10?
10%.
10%. Oh man, we had some that were not IS. They just lived there.
Overspent.
Yes, 10 days, isn't it? Yeah. So I'm like, we might want to look at the law here on how many days a special ed kid can be in ISS. So, look at overrepresentation and underrepresentation. Look at barriers to enrollment. Hopefully, in your programs today, you're not seeing things like teacher approval or teacher interview. That doesn't exist in my district, okay? What we do have is a skills-based admission criteria that's based on a coherent sequence. Okay? We do not have an application process that says teacher interview or if we have a scoring rubric that is skills-based, just be very careful. Look at that, and make certain that you have a scoring rubric that assures non-discrimination. This is data. Look who is admitted, and look at who is denied along the lines of ethnicity, gender, disability, language status, etc., etc. Watch very carefully. If you have an admission criteria, make certain that it's skills-based and assures non-discrimination. The other things that we use this data for, and it's really important. We were talking about, Bill Chapman was talking about enrollment. If we've got something open, if we've got an area open, put a kid in there. Here's the thing. Don't look at enrollment, ladies and gentlemen. Look at your pre-enrollment. Where you have more interest than capacity. I may have 400 students signing up for 200 positions in a program of study. If I have that over 3 years, then I have information so that I can go to the board and request an additional CTE position. when you look at it, when you look at your enrollment, when you look at your master schedule, and you look at enrollment, all that's going to tell you is how well the counselors have balanced the master schedule. They're going to find a place for those kids to be plugged in, okay? That masks and it hides that real trend of who's got low enrollment and why, or who has really much more interest than capacity. Here's what we do, and I kind of mentioned this the first day, and I promise I'm going to finish. When I look at CTE programs and I evaluate, I'm looking at three things. I'm looking at pre-enrollment, I'm looking at workforce data, and I'm looking at my interest from the 8th grade, from my junior highs. Where I have high interest from my 8th graders, aligned with more interest and capacity at the high school, aligned with a demand occupation, then I'll make a change. I will definitely make a change. But I want at least 3 years of data. Here's the thing, if you offer a new program, you're going to have 400 kids sign up. That tells you nothing about sustainability. It tells you nothing about sustainability. So when we look at that, make certain we're looking at data that ensures the sustainability of the program. Put a dollar amount on pre-enrollment that we're not being able to get into the program. Take your early release and late arrival kids, put a dollar amount on it. Bill has a formula that'll let you show how many of those kids that are worried for letting go on early release and late arrival, what that represents in funding loss. And I'm going to tell you something, if I'm a parent of a senior, I don't want them running the roads. I want them in a career prep program where they get work experience that looks awesome on a college application. And here's what no one tells parents. Universities want to see if this child has worked, they have done volunteer activity, as well as grades and extracurricular. That work piece is really important. So if I've got a senior, and I've got them on late arrival or early release, give them 3 credits. Let them get work. They're going to work anyway. Why not let them get 3 credits and that'll look good on their college application? Are we sharing our CTE data with our PLCs? If the campus and district plan is what drives success, then make sure CTE is included with it. Make sure that our PLCs have the district CTE data. Okay, and we're going to finish up here because I think we're done, right? Here's what I like. Let me say this to you. Data is fluid and ongoing. Data is not static. If you are static in your programs, you are in decline. What I tell my district constantly and chronically is, CTE, we're just like a business. If we are static, we are in decline. I use the data to justify the upgrades for equipment, software, hardware, those kinds of things. So that I know we zoom through this really quickly. So why do we evaluate? All of those reasons there. The least important reason to do it is to be in compliance with the law. The best reason to do it is to have the data to serve our children. I gave you the link to the CTE specialist, if that link is still accurate. So hopefully it is. Get with your service center. They have masterful technical assistants. They're here to serve you guys, and they will do great things for you. Okay, done, I promise.